It is a picture-perfect day, a Saturday afternoon in beautiful Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Kenan Stadium, where the Tar Heels call home, and today they will call the 2023 spring football game. The blue and white ready to go at it, including the potential #1 pick in next year's draft, quarterback Drake Maye, the reigning ACC Player of the Year. Every format's a little bit different. We know we're going to see Drake Maye. We just spoke to him about an hour ago. He's ready to go. He wants to be out there. The offense wasn't the problem last year. The defense was. Gene Chizik and company want to improve it, starting with today. We'll take a look at the schedule for this season, take a look back at what happened last year in a 9-win campaign, and also hear from the head coach, Mack Brown, defensive coordinator Gene Chizik, and the aforementioned quarterback, Drake Maye. And with that, we say hello and welcome, everybody. He is Rini Ngolia. I am Mike Morgan. Great to be with you. And Rini, let's start there with the guy, the signal caller, that was one of the top storylines last year, will be one of the top storylines this year again, Drake Maye.
I'm incredibly humble. That's the first thing that strikes me when I talk to Drake Maye. His numbers were ridiculous last year, ACC Player of the Year, but he wants to get better, right? He wants to work on his footwork. He slides a little bit in the pocket, work on his arm motion, but he can make all the throws. He's got touch. He's got great vision. Look at his zip on that ball. Again, can make all the throws, a great leader. And oh, by the way, a lot more athletic than people give him credit for. Led this team in rushing last year with almost 700 yards. He's the total package.
Did it in the clutch as well. Came up big at the end of big games. When you look at the numbers overall, not much to nitpick. That was a freshman, folks. 38 touchdowns and 7 picks. And as Rini mentioned, fleet of foot, leading the team in rushing with nearly 700 yards on the ground. So that is the good part of what we saw last year out of the Tar Heels, Rini. They could score points. The problem was the defense. The defense, when you look at them statistically, it was almost a miracle they won 9 games.
Yeah, and I mean, we had a great conversation with defensive coordinator Gene Chizik yesterday. This, of course, is his second year with this defense. And I mean, just look at those numbers. Not good, and they know that. And, you know, I think it starts with physicality. They got to get physical. They got to get better on first down, right? If you can shut offenses down on first down, get them to 2nd and 10, they're more predictable. I would expect them to be a lot more aggressive next season, and they worked a lot on fundamentals this spring.
Some key transfers will be a part of that. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk to the head coach, Mack Brown. He will lead things off when we come back here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Back on campus here in Chapel Hill, Memorial Stadium. Won't be too long before the Tar Heels are taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks in the season opener. 9 wins last year. Mack Brown says 9 is not enough, and standing by with the head coach is Rini Ngolia.
Thanks, Mike. Coach Mack Brown. Coach, 15 days, spring football, right? You guys worked really hard on fundamentals. One of the things you told your players, go from good to great. Kind of assess that. How was this spring?
Well, this spring was great, in my opinion, because we've been good. And you win 9 games around here, that's been good. You win the Coastal for the 2nd time ever, that's good. But you didn't win the ACC championship. You didn't finish right. You lost games at the end. So what do we need to do differently as coaches and help our players to take that step from being good to being great? And 9's not enough around here, and that's what we want, and that was the message.
Yeah, I know today's all about player evaluation, no game planning. One of the other things you told your players, focus and finish. So I guess today, when you're doing that player evaluation, you look at this on film, you're going to see who's going to focus and who's going to finish in this game today.
We do, and it's focus and fun and finish. We're not having enough fun in college football anymore.
Yeah.
We need to have some fun, because you play better if you have fun. It's a game, and it's a really important game, and we want to win, but it's still a game. We've got enough injuries. We're going to thud some today. We've had the most physical spring we've had. We've got to tackle better. We've got to do things better. But today, to have enough safeties play, we're going to have a few guys out there in yellow jerseys. They're going to play. But the offensive and defensive line shouldn't be any different. It should be the same for them. And then we'll try to do a little tackling at the end.
Absolutely. And we talked about player evaluations. One of your players that probably doesn't need it is Drake Maye. But I tell you, Coach, the one thing that impressed me about him is how humble he is. Great year last year statistically, ACC Player of the Year, but he came in this spring and said, hey, I want to fix my footwork. I'm sliding in the pocket a little bit. I want to work on my throwing motion. Just an unbelievable leader. Talk about Drake.
He is driven to get better in everything he does. He's humble. but he's so competitive. And that's what, when the season was over, he didn't like the way we finished either. He didn't like the way he finished. And he said, here's what I see. Coach, what do you see? What can I do to get better? And it's a message to all those young players out there. Here's a guy that's one of the best in the country. He's a freshman of the year. And his questions were, what didn't I do right, instead of bragging on himself.
Yeah, and now some of his targets, the North Carolina fans, a little nervous. A lot of production gone at wide receiver with Josh Downs and Green gone. But you brought some guys in the transfer portal. Tez Walker from Kent State, Nate McCollum looked really good this spring. They're going to be great additions to you, I'm guessing.
Yes, the transfer portal has got some problems that we've all talked about, but there are some positive things. If a guy wasn't playing enough, or you lose and have a need in a certain position, a guy from another school that's ready to move can come. And a lot of people's were attracted by Drake Maye. And if I was a receiver, I'd be attracted by Drake Maye too. So Tez and Nate have had outstanding springs. Kobe Paysor and Gavin Blackwell have stepped up. We got some other young guys we need to see today that we want to step up. But I don't see a big drop-off at wide receiver.
And last question for you, Coach, and you mentioned it, physicality on both sides of the ball. I know something you got after it this spring, and you talked about you got to do thud today a little bit and protect some guys, but are you happy with, in particular, both lines of scrimmage, the physical play? And I know next year, probably a little more of a concerted effort of running the ball downhill, you guys dictating that. You got a great stable of running backs when they're healthy. So physicality on that line of scrimmage is something, right, we can look forward to next year.
Yeah, yes, and yes. We got to stop the run better, and then we get more sacks, and then we get more turnovers. So we've got to do that. Today, we've looked at a lot of different things on defense that are new to help us. We're not going to use any of them today because South Carolina's sitting there watching, and Appalachian State and Minnesota, all the early games are going to be watching this game and recording it, obviously. So that's why it's not a scheme day. But who can play a man head up, and who can whip him, and who can get to the ball and get off on defense, and who can drive your feet on offense and be aggressive. I really like what Randy has brought to our offensive line. Randy Clement's a very experienced line coach. He's a very good technician, but he's tough. Yeah. They're knocking people around, so I've enjoyed that. We brought in Ted Monachino from the Falcons to help us with the defensive line in front seven. Ted's brought us a lot of great ideas to help. So I'm really excited about where we are and how much improvement we can make before next fall.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing it today, and best of luck next year, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Glad you're here.
Back to you, Mike.
Rini, I love it. The message from Mack Brown. College football used to be fun and needs to be fun. We're going to have some fun. Mike Morgan, Rini, and Goliad, Chapel Hill. We're going to talk about the upcoming schedule when we come back. Back with you here in Chapel Hill, Kenan Memorial Stadium for the 2023 Tar Heel spring game. Not too many minutes away from getting started. We'll also hear from Gene Chizik, the defensive coordinator, now in year 2 back in Chapel Hill, as we go split box on you. Mike Morgan here in the booth. Rini and Goliad's got the enviable spot right there on the sideline on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. I'm jealous, Rini, but that's, we've come accustomed to that whenever I work with you. Let's talk about this year versus last year. So last year, when you look at the results, you get off to a tremendous start, right? I mean, win. You win 9 out of your first 10 games. The only loss was to a talented Notre Dame squad, and everybody is talking about potential championship in the ACC for the Tar Heels. But what's concerning is it all seemed to unravel in an unexpected, unexplainable home loss to Georgia Tech. Then you lose a heartbreaker in double overtime against NC State. Clemson was just better in the ACC title game. I don't think they're that upset about that one compared to the way they lost the Oregon game. Again, a last-second touchdown. Rini, they got to finish games better if they're going to go from 9 wins to, say, 10, 11, or even more.
There's no doubt about it. Statistically, we showed the defensive statistics from last year. They were not good. But to their credit, they did play better defensively towards the end of the year. So something for Gene Chizik really to build on through this spring and get ready for next season.
Then you flip it over to this year. Mack Brown was very open with us about the schedule. He doesn't really like the schedule, okay? Not many coaches are in love with their schedule, but this one it puts you in a rather unorthodox spot where it's front-loaded and back-loaded. The softest spot is in the middle, and even that is not exactly easy. But Rini, right off the bat, the Gamecocks coming off a great year under Shane Beamer, Minnesota and Appalachian State, we know they're tough. And then look at those final 2-3 games at the end. That's going to tell the story.
I should have asked Coach Brown who he made mad at the league office, because those first 4 are a gauntlet, and you talk the back end, Clemson, North Carolina State on the road. It is arguably the toughest schedule in all of the ACC.
Pitt will be the conference opener. Remember, Tar Heels beat Pitt last year, so that'll be a revenge game for the Panthers, perhaps. When we come back, we'll talk about the defensive coordinator, whose squad certainly improved at the end of last year and hopes to improve this year. Gene Chizik chats with us when we return. Back to ball, back to X's and O's. Huge focus on fundamentals, getting back to the basics. He kept talking about, he asked every player on that defensive side, was your presence felt when you were out there? Were you a factor? Did teams have to game plan for you? Feel the violence of the game, track the havoc, all things to live by, and all things that are going to be stressed by Gene Chizik, who's standing by with Rini.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, Coach Chizik, second year now as defensive coordinator here. I know this spring you wanted to work heavily on fundamentals, tackling better, taking on blocks, being in the right position. Talk to me about all those little things and how your defense looked this spring.
Yeah, I was really pleased. Obviously, we're in day 15, but it was all about execution, being in the right spots, understanding how to play the game with a physical mentality, right? It was all about effort and physicality this spring. I think our guys made leaps and bounds in terms of progression.
Now, one of the things you asked your players, or kind of challenged them, is said, is your presence felt when you're out there? Kind of explain to us about that, and did that resonate with them?
I think it did. We talked every day about production. We talked every day about, is your presence felt? When the game ends, do people know that they played against you? Do people look back and say, now that guy right there, we need to do something different with him? That's making your presence felt. That was a big coaching point for us all spring.
And I know, defensively, football in general, there's a ton of statistics. One of the things you do with your defensive unit, which I love, is you track the havoc. TFLs, pass breakups, takeaways, knocking a ball out. To me, I guess that would probably give your players a little juice, right, to get out there and make those type plays. So did that help out this spring?
Yeah, everybody wants to see what their production level is, right? When you talk about playing with havoc and making big plays and being productive on defense, what is that? It's PBUs, it's interceptions, it's sacks, it's TFLs. So we tracked those the entire spring, and we kept an updated list because we wanted to be great competition. If you want to be out there, you want to have your presence felt, you better be making those havoc-type plays.
Yeah, and talk to Coach Brown about just being a more physical team on both sides of the ball. Obviously, every defensive coordinator wants their defense to be physical, and I know you talk about feel the violence, right? You have to do that in defense. So are you happy with the physicality of your defense as we get to day 15 here in spring ball?
I don't know that you're ever happy or satisfied with it, but I think we're making progress. We're heading in the right direction because they understand for us to be great, we don't want to be good. We want to be great. For us to take the next step, physicality is a must, and we practiced it every day. It was a very physical spring. So you are what you do, right?
Yeah.
You practice it, you have a chance to be it, and I think, again, we're heading in the right direction.
And last question for you. Obviously, you were with us. You were a colleague at ESPN, SEC Network for about 5 years. You're back in the game. Some stuff has changed, mainly the transfer portal, right? So you were able to go, though, in the portal this year, get a couple guys to add to your defense, especially on the back end. Talk about those additions and how they're going to help your defense.
Yeah, we felt really good about, where, in this day and age, you can look at some holes in your defense and try to plug them. So, we brought in Elijah Huzzy. He was a transfer from East Tennessee State. He's been very productive. We brought in Derek Allen from Georgia Tech. He's been productive and is going to give us some depth. And we did the same thing in the front. Amari Gaynor from Florida State's another one that we brought in. So we brought in some guys that we think in areas needed to fill in some spots, and we think we hit on it.
Well, Coach, we're looking forward to seeing your defense today. Best of luck in the upcoming season. Can't wait to watch you play.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Mike, back to you, buddy.
All right, Rini. Yeah, that's a guy that knows a thing or two about championship defense. Part of 2 national championship defenses at Auburn and at Texas with one Mack Brown. So what do the experts have to say about one Drake Maye? We'll hear from Todd McShay, his outlook on the next draft that will certainly have Drake Maye going very high.
All the focus right now is on this year's quarterback class. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. But there is a lot of buzz already when I'm talking to people inside the league about next year's quarterback class. And it starts with the top 2 guys, Caleb Williams from USC and North Carolina's Drake Maye. And specifically with Maye, what I've seen so far, he's 6'4", 225 pounds, so he fits the prototype, big, sturdy build, can see the whole field. He has a big-time arm, and it's not just driving the ball, but it's driving with accuracy. He has a high volume of throws when I went back and watched his tape last year of down the field and placing the ball with good trajectory. So that's a great jumping-off point in terms of what you have physically to work with. Two other things stood out. One, he was under a lot of duress last year. Pass rushers on him a lot, having to make quick decisions with guys right in his face, and he, for the most part, did a really good job in that regard. And secondly, yeah, he's not Caleb Williams in terms of the agility and the ability to extend so quickly, but he does have running ability. And when he tucks it and runs, he's got good vision, he's competitive, he's tough, and he's got some mobility as he builds up speed. So, listen, as we're talking about Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud this year, I think it's going to be a very similar debate a year from now. Two top 5 potential quarterbacks in Drake Maye and Caleb Williams. Which one will come off the board first, and how quickly will the second quarterback come off the board? But make no mistake, they're both elite talents that NFL teams are excited to see next season.
Well, super stuff there from our own Todd McShay. When you look at these two young men, both expected to be top 5, maybe 1 and 2. And that's going to be debated throughout the season. We know that much. You look at the numbers, and you can argue who had the tougher road to get to those numbers in terms of schedule strength and the Pac-12 versus the ACC, et cetera, et cetera. But bottom line is they both put up terrific campaigns in 2022. What's kind of interesting about that, Rini, talking to Drake Maye down on the field earlier before this game, what we did not know before today is that they're very good friends. They went to quarterback camps together like Elite 11. They keep in touch with each other throughout the regular season and the offseason. So not only are they going to be talked about much throughout the year in terms of the draft, they're going to be talking to each other a bunch.
No doubt. I think that's great, right? Because they're going to challenge each other. But, you know, we heard Todd there. I mean, Drake Maye has all the tools. He has everything you want in a first-round quarterback and the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft. The thing I love, and I talked about it earlier, he's very humble. He's still working on things. He wants to work on his footwork, his arm motion. He's a leader, and he wants to win first and foremost. So he's got all the tools, all the attributes, but that attitude that he brings, you know, I think it's immeasurable.
I think the one thing that Mack Brown said that stood out to me in our meetings yesterday, and again, Mack has coached some terrific quarterbacks, including a couple here in Chapel Hill. We already know he's got the arm talent. We already know he's got the physical talent. But what he said, I think, is an underrated feature of any quarterback that's going to excel at the next level. He said he has unmatched ability to find the open receiver. His progression and his ability to see who to throw it to and when to throw it to. Some of those things, Rini, I'm not sure you can teach. He is just has an exceptional feel for that part of the game playing quarterback.
No, I agree. I mean, you either have that feel and touch or you don't. He has it. The other thing that's going to help him out as well, new offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey, new offensive line coach, they're going to have different blocking protections for him, and they're going to run the ball, okay? They're going to be physical up front. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher next year, and Drake Maye's not going to lead them in rushing, which is a good thing. And I think if they do that balance with the tools that Drake Maye brings, watch out for him to have another sensational season.
No question. The numbers will be there. The production will be there. Now the question is, will more wins be there? We shall see. It all starts today. Enough talk. Let's play some ball. Spring ball when we come back. We are inching closer and closer to the actual spring game. Had plenty of chatter here. We've got you set. You're prepared for the season itself. We'll delve further into that, of course, throughout this broadcast. And we'll get you ready now for the format. Of course, every spring football game format is different, right? The good news is we're going to see a lot of ones-on-ones in this game. We're going to start off with 7-on-7, then a 75-play scrimmage, 40 thud, which basically just means no tackling, some hitting, but no tackling, and then 35 live. Again, Drake Maye and that first-team offense will go up against the first-team defense, so they're not tilting the scale as some coaches and teams elect to do. 6 points for a touchdown. The extra point is basically going to be a field goal, but it'll be worth 1 point. And then if you want to kick a field goal, and they've got a couple of good ones. Remember last year they were second in the ACC in special teams. They believe their kicking game will be exceptional again today. And for all you diehard punting fans, I'm sorry, there will be no punting here today, but we can tell you they've got a couple of good ones, including Ben Kieran, the young man from Dublin, Ireland. Of course, we'll be looking a lot at that man, number 10 in blue, Drake Maye, the sophomore out of Huntersville, North Carolina. Myers Park High School. Extremely athletic family, been well documented. Of course, his father, Mark, played quarterback with the Tar Heels back in the 80s. In fact, he led the ACC in passing efficiency back in 1986. Mother Amy was a great athlete and very competitive. And, of course, his brother, older brother Luke, was a part of the national championship squad for Roy Williams. Got a lot of athletes in the family, and this one might have more potential than any of them. Drake Maye has got a chance to be an outstanding player at this level, and a year from now, we could be talking about Drake Maye in the NFL draft. Talking about that family for Drake Maye, and again, if you're around here and you follow the Tar Heels, and a lot of these names are going to be familiar to you. Of course, I mentioned Mark Maye back in the 80s, and Mark Maye was actually at one point an assistant under Mack Brown. Luke Maye, the brother, national championship in hand. He's now playing professional basketball in Spain, by the way. Cole Maye, he was part of a national championship team for the Florida Gator baseball team. And here is Drake, who talked about the fact, he was kind of the runt of the litter, so to speak. I mean, he was a late bloomer and was going up against all these great athletes in his family. They were very competitive. They played 2-on-2 basketball, and who knows what the winning stakes would be. Sometimes a better meal, perhaps, at dinner time than the losing team. So it's been in his blood for a long time. And again, he originally was committed to Alabama. And Drake Maye was very upfront about the fact that when he committed to Alabama, he always wanted to be a Tar Heel, but there was a bit of a stigma that North Carolina football could not make it to the next level. Mack Brown changed that perception, and now they are coming off a 9-win campaign and ready to make it to the next level. For some 7-on-7, let's do it. Rini, what are some of the differences that we can expect 7-on-7 versus 11-on-11?
Yeah, I mean, 7-on-7 is just pass skeleton. So it's just the receivers and running backs versus the linebackers in secondary. So a lot of one-on-one on the outside. You're going to see the quarterbacks open it up, throw some targets, but no defensive line or offensive line in front of them. But they will also do pass pro behind them, so the defensive line and offensive line are separate, and they will go at it full contact behind where the pass skeleton is. So a couple different things going on down here, and getting some work done. And
this has become, for those that follow recruiting and high school football, 7-on-7 has become a thing, right? I mean, you see it now more often than ever.
It's almost like the AAU of basketball, right? Because you have 7-on-7 teams now travel the country and compete. So yeah, I agree with you, Mike.
That first catch, by the way, was by one of the talented running backs, Elijah Green, and they expect to throw to this quartet of backs a lot more this season. They believe that's going to be a big part of the game this year. That one intended inside for one of their talented tight ends, Kamari Morales. And when you look at their tight end room, Rini, this is another facet of the offense they're very excited about.
Well, and you look at Morales right there, a little out of sync with Drake Maye right there, but he's 6'3", 245. He's big. He can be an end line tight end, but he's very skillful as well for that size.
Speaking of out of sync, I'm not sure who was on what page there. DeAndre Boykins broke up the pass, and I'm not sure anybody saw it on the offensive side.
And, the one good thing, Mike, we talked about the North Carolina defense and trying to improve. Well, when you're going up against a quarterback like Drake Maye, it's going to make you better, right? Because you got to make plays because he puts balls in such small windows. So it can only help but make you better.
That's Nate McCollum, the transfer from Georgia Tech, and he is one of the difference makers you can expect to see on this offense. Remember, they lost their top two receivers, Green and Downs, from last year. So it's going to be Walker, the transfer from Kent State, McCollum, the transfer from Georgia Tech, that are going to be the difference makers. You listen to Coach Mack Brown talk about Omarion Hampton. He says flat out he could be a freak. He runs a 4.4, 220 pounds, 6 feet tall. He's got a whole lot of potential to be one of the top dogs in the ACC.
Yeah, and the stable of running backs that they have, now they just all haven't been healthy at the same time. And Coach wants to have really a 2+1, meaning two backs healthy that he can rely on, and then a third guy they can get in there as well. That's kind of what he wants to do for next season. But yeah, you mentioned Omarion Hampton. I mean, the guy's a load and he can run. So I would expect him to have a good year next year.
That pass was right on the money by the backup Connor Harrell to Christian Hamilton, the freshman. They're very high on Connor Harrell as well. Remember, Harrell was in a battle with Drake Maye last year for that starting job. Young man out of Alabama who was a valedictorian in high school and might very well be the future for this quarterbacking squad in 2024 and on. More 7-on-7 drills when we come back from Chapel Hill. We're underway. 2023 spring football. As we welcome you back, more 7-on-7 going on. Some new rules or formats, if you will, for the ACC scheduling model. No more divisions. Remember, last year the Tar Heels won the Coastal Division. Well, now it's just the top 2 teams in the conference in terms of conference winning percentage playing the ACC title game. Tar Heels would have made it anyway. They had the second best conference mark. You play the same primary opponents annually. Not surprising who those teams will be. Duke, NC State, the third one, Virginia. Maybe that one a little bit off the radar. But something to keep an eye on is a lot of the conferences, Rini, are getting rid of divisions. Big 12 did it a few years ago. A lot of talk that the SEC is going to do it soon. The ACC does it this year.
I mean, and you understand why, right? At the end of the day, you want your 2 best teams in your conference going at it in the conference championship. So you completely understand why the ACC did it. But I also understand why someone like Mack Brown doesn't really like it, because he said, you know, you could kind of be out of it early, right? And not really, you know, have anything to fight for when there's divisions. Gives you something to fight for pretty much to the end. I see both sides of it, but completely understand what the ACC is doing there.
Yeah, the Coastal has been one of the most unpredictable divisions in college football for a while now. Seems like every year it's somebody different. Again, the Tar Heels would have been in that championship game regardless of the format last year at 6-2. Clemson, of course, they've been the big dog at 8-0, although a lot of people think Florida State might be ready to usurp them starting with this year. Coach Norvell and company finishing off last year on a high note with a victory in Orlando in the Cheez-It Bowl. As we continue 7-on-7, Connor Harrell, who we mentioned before the break.
And, you know, Mike, the interesting thing about Connor Harrell, new offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey actually recruited him when Chip was the head coach at Troy. So he's very familiar with Connor Harrell, and I think that's going to help his growth. And he's got a different skill set than Drake Maye, which I think is a good thing. He's very athletic. He's got great speed. So when you see a Connor Harrell get in the game next year, I wouldn't doubt some packages for him to show that athleticism, especially in the run game.
He tried to missile that one in to Doc Chapman, but great coverage on the play by Armani Chapman. Transfer from Virginia Tech. And that is the difference now, Rena. You and I were talking about how it used to be we couldn't wait to see who the top freshmen were going to be and how they were going to impact a spring football game. Now we're looking for the top transfers.
There's no doubt that the transfer portal has hurt high school football in terms of, you know, players finding spots, because now just the top, you know, the 4-star and 5-star guys, they're always going to get homes. But some of those other guys, it's just hard to get homes now because, you know, first thing these coaches do is they hit the transfer portal, right? When they lose someone, they're going to look, whether they lost them to graduation or they transferred themselves, they're going to look to replace that need with someone with experience. So, yeah, it's just a different world right now for sure.
Everybody out at the 50.
All right, so that will conclude 7-on-7. Everybody hustles out to the 50. We'll take a timeout. And pretty soon we'll get ready for 11-on-11. Spring football here in Chapel Hill. College game. Spring game format again. 75 play scrimmage, 40 thud, 35 live, 6 points for a touchdown. And then the extra point could be from anywhere on the field. From a field goal perspective, they're trying to test the leg of their new kicker, Ryan Coe, a talented transfer from Cincinnati. You hear Mack Brown screaming blue versus blue. That means ones versus ones, Rini. That's the way I like to see it. I want to know how well you're actually performing. Sometimes coaches tilt that scale a little bit.
No doubt about it. Best on best. That's what you do. And he had a little pep talk to the team when we were at commercial, and he told them to get after it. He's doing player evaluations. He wants guys aggressive, getting after it, be physical. Now, we talked about thud. So when you see guys in yellow jerseys, they want them to get reps. They're just not allowed to tackle full contact, so that's where the thud comes in. But he still wants them to play hard and be aggressive and get after it.
Drake Maye will get things started. Ball spotted at the 37-yard line. Taps and fires near side, complete in the flat at the 40. And that is Kobe Paysor, who really burst onto the scene during last year's spring football game, caught a touchdown, and they'll go tempo here in the opening drive.
You just see how quick the ball gets out of Drake Maye's hands. I mean, just a phenomenal delivery.
Handoff straight up the gut, and burrowing ahead to the 47-yard line is Elijah Green, tackled by Myles Murphy.
First down.
We will not see George Pettaway, their burner, in the backfield, but you still have 4 other talented running backs that we will see in this game today.
Yeah, Elijah Green's the #1 back right now, and then we talked about Omarion Hampton. He's #2 right now. 2 good ones.
Quick toss. There's that missile of an arm displayed by Drake Maye. Hits Paysor again for his second grab. DeAndre Boykins on the coverage.
You know, and Paysor had a nice year last year, almost 30 receptions, 324 yards, 4 touchdowns. I expect Kobe to step up as well and have a nice season again next year.
On play action. Maye flushed out left. Rifles complete at the 37-yard line. And I believe that's yet another grab for Paysor. Take another look at this. You see the elusiveness of Maye. And then you see the ball right on target, as it normally is when it comes out of the hand of Drake Maye. Very accurate last year. A run to the left side, and it's another tote for Elijah Green, the junior out of Roswell, Georgia, Blessed Trinity High School. His father, Victor, was a defensive back for the New York Jets. As fascinated as we are by Drake Maye, Reenie, I think so many of the coaches right now want to know what this defense is going to look like today. You'll see another carry on second down between the tackles, Murphy on another tackle of Elijah Green.
Well, and Coach Brown told us, right, physicality on both lines of scrimmage. And I tell people all the time, I don't care what offense you run, what defense you run, you know, how fancy you are. The game is won at the line of scrimmage. You build your teams from the inside out, offense and defensive lines. And that's really the mentality he's having this spring. He wants to win the game first and foremost at the line of scrimmage.
And they were not particularly physical on either line of scrimmage last year. 7th play of the drive for Drake Maye and the blue team. Base defense, as you'll see throughout the spring game. Again, Maye flushed out, this time to his right, throws on the run and throws out of bounds.
Okay, go for 4th down.
Walker was the closest target. Tez Walker gives us an excuse to talk about Tez. Transfer from Kent State. First team All-MAC, caught 58 passes, 11 touchdowns. He was a weapon.
And he's the guy that's going to stretch the field for them next year. He's long, he's lean, he's got great speed. He's going to take the top off it. He's going to be a great target for Drake Maye.
So a 4th and short, not surprisingly, they'll go for it. Trips to the far side for Maye out of the shotgun. Pocket crumbles. Maye going to tuck it and run. Again, you can't tackle the quarterback. And he slides at around the 16-yard line for a first down.
And you know, that's what Drake Maye can do, Mike. I mean, the pocket collapse. Good defensive rush there, right? Forced him up inside the pocket. But he's athletic enough that he can make a play. He would have gotten that first down.
So they'll go ahead and flip it over to the white offense. Yeah, we will keep it here. Ball will be at the 17. For the white, and that'll be Connor Harrell back in at quarterback. We expect to see at least 3 quarterbacks today, including the highly touted true freshman Tad Hudson out of Huntersville, North Carolina. By the way, on the last drive, Drake Maye 3 of 4, 26 yards through the air. Now another look at Harrell, also operating out of the gun. And a handoff straight ahead, plugged up pretty well by that defensive front on the carry. British Brooks, grad transfer, originally out of Gastonia, North Carolina. Didn't play last year. He had the injury that he suffered in fall camp, but he's healthy this year.
British Brooks is 24 at tailback. Welcome back, British.
And The welcome back British gets a round of applause. The pass in the flat and streaking down the sideline before taking a shot at the 35 is Brooks. Shot delivered by Derek Allen. You got to love the depth, Reedy, of this backfield overall. It's not just going to be one or two guys. They really have 4 or 5 they feel good about.
And British Brooks, a guy very experienced, been through a lot of injuries in his career, knee injury, excuse me, comes back and showing a little excitement to this backfield as he gets added back into the mix. And so you got to be really happy for a player like British Brooks.
And Brooks they don't want to think about the Mayo Bowl in 21 too much around here. That was a loss to South Carolina, but he had a big run in that game. He had a 63-yard rushing touchdown. He showed you some of that burst in that game. And then, of course, the injury last year, but they've got him back and healthy this year. You see last year running the football. That's not a bad number, Reedy, 153 yards a game. But the problem was when they got in the red zone and they needed some hard, tough yards, they did not get them the way they needed to. Again, that's where they need to be more physical.
There's an old adage, you throw the ball to score points, and you run the ball to win games. And at the end of the day, you have to pick up first downs on the ground to run the clock, to get things going. And you have to complement your running game. Again, Drake Maye was their leading rusher at nearly 700 yards. You don't want that, right? You want a 1,000-yard rusher out of the backfield, and they have the horses back there to do it. There's no doubt about it.
And they've had them 3,000-yard rushers the last 4 years. So they're not adverse to running the football, that's for sure. Off right tackle, gaping hole. Penalty flag falls, though, as the stop will be at the 31-yard line for Brooks, but that's in the area of a hold.
Holding, back it up.
As on 73, Eli Sutton. What about the offensive line, Reedy? What do you think of the line?
It was actually, Eli Sutton was a good block initially. He didn't have to hold. The defender ran through him, made that arm come up. The headline judge looks at it. You're going to get called for a holding. That's one of those ones really didn't need to be done. But right now they look aggressive. They're getting downhill. Again, it's pretty vanilla, right? The offense. Right. They're not going to show us anything from the season. But right now they want to see physicality, getting after it. And right now I like what I see out of this offensive line and these running backs.
Mack seems to feel good about the line. You know, Corey Gaynor proved what he could do last year in all ACC season, the transfer from Miami. He's the anchor, the center on the blue team. But they've got some other guys they feel like now with another year under their belt will be much more ready for ACC competition. Nowhere to run and nowhere to hide that time for Harrell. He's sacked by Kevin Hester, the senior out of Kennesaw, Georgia.
Yeah. That should be illegal, right? Kevin Hester, he's 6'4", 315. See how fast he got to the quarterback? Boy, that's just...
Got TV timeout.
We'll take a timeout here. It's going to be blue on blue. When we come back, more of the North Carolina spring game from Chapel Hill continues after this. Strike up the band here in Chapel Hill. Ready to play some more 11 on 11. We've played 16 out of 75 plays thus far, and a lot of the new receivers getting some work. Of course, they'll replace 2 talented ones, including Josh Downs, who's probably going to be a second-round draft pick in a matter of days. 94 receptions last year. He led the ACC in that category. He was easily Drake Maye's top target. Now you're going to look to a couple of transfers to lead the way this season. And there is one of them, Tez Walker, the transfer from Kent State with his second reception.
And because of Walker's speed, you see how the corner had to play off him, right? Nice little comeback, little out route, and Drake Maye has the arm, obviously, to get it out there with space for him to run.
Firing through the hole, straight up the gut. That is Amarian Hampton. Some of the key transfers, we've talked about some of them so far, including Tez Walker and Nate McCollum, the 2 receivers. I can't stress how high they are on the defensive back, Elijah Hussey. They believe he is going to be their top DB, the transfer from East Tennessee State. In fact, Gene Chizik, I thought he was very telling, Reedy, when we were talking about transfers, that he likes the small school guys that were extremely productive and are still hungry, maybe more than some of the more highly named bigger school guys that transfer that don't have the same track record.
Yeah, unfortunately for the FCS programs, that's kind of the consensus around FBS now. They would much rather get a guy that's all-conference, all-American at the FCS level. You know what you're getting. They're going to have a little chip on their shoulder. They got passed over for FBS. Now they get their chance, and you're going to get a productive player.
Right in the bucket. Maye to Walker. You couldn't have thrown the ball any better. Drake Maye showing off that arm talent for a 35-yard touchdown pass.
And that's a connection, Mike, that we're going to see a lot next year. There's no doubt about it. As you said, buddy, perfect pass. You could not walk this ball out there and set it in the hands of Tez Walker any better. You see the separation he got on the defensive back. Great play.
Drake Maye to Tez Walker.
That is a pretty ball. And Tez Walker showing off some of that speed. Now another talented transfer. The kicker, Ryan Coe, who was All-American Conference during his time with Cincinnati. He pokes it through. 7-0, the blue team on top after 21 plays.
White versus White.
We've talked a lot about the top offensive plays, and Reedy, you got Mack. Can I get a little feedback here?
I got him. Thanks, Mike. Tez Walker looked great right there, right? What you thought he was going to bring to this team, right? Great transfer.
He is. He's got length. He's got quickness. He's got speed. He's got tremendous hands. And you lose a guy like Antoine Green, who was a difference maker outside, and all of a sudden you plug in Tez Walker. So we're in good shape.
I got a feeling Drake probably pretty big smile on his face. Great pass as well there.
He does. We haven't covered him all spring, so it's been a tough matchup.
Great stuff.
That is great stuff. Mack Brown inside the game. That's the one thing about a spring game. You get unmatched access. Now, we don't typically get to talk to a coach on the field right before a drive starts. Good work by you, Reedy. Our intrepid reporter and analyst today is Connor Harrell. Will now man the quarterback spot and hand it off a couple of yards behind the left side of the line. That's Kellen Hood, the brother of Caleb Hood. Caleb Hood last year had 43 carries. He's banged up. He won't be ready for today's game, but Caleb will be ready in the fall. And Kellen Hood, just a redshirt freshman. Both the Hood's father, Errol Hood, played football for Mack Brown in his first stint coaching the Tar Heels. On second down, Harrell rolling out left. Coxon fires, and that one sails over the head of the intended target, Doc Chapman. This, of course, the second team offense. On that first team offense, you saw the top transfers, Tez Walker. Tez Walker, as you heard Mack Brown mention, he's going to replace in a lot of ways what Antoine Green did. And then Nate McCollum, I don't know if you can replace Josh Downs, but he's the closest thing to it. He'll be the slot guy this year. From the pocket, incomplete. Through the hands of the intended target. That's the tight end, the fourth string tight end, Jake Young. Bryson Nesbitt's their first guy, Reedy. He's not going to play today, but they believe they've got a great one with him.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about their running back crew a bunch. The tight end unit is top-notch. Might be the best in the nation. And so when they're back healthy in full strength, that's a great unit. And, you know, we take a look at Connor Harrell there. I think he's going to benefit a lot being able to sit behind Drake Maye once again this year and just kind of watch, especially with the footwork that Drake Maye has. I mean, he wants to work on that. You saw on that throw right there, Connor Harrell, a little antsy in the pocket. So I think it's going to benefit him tremendously to just kind of sit and watch Drake Maye.
And he'll watch him here on this drive, which will start from midfield. Marion Hampton, the tailback to his right, and a three-wide set on first down. And Hampton will get the carry. No, he won't. Play action. And the pass rifled complete to the 45, shake and bake at the 40, and down to the 36-yard line is Tez Walker.
But that's what you can do, Mike, when you can run the ball effectively, right? Play action, you put it in the belly of Hampton, you pull it out, defense sucks in, and you got a nice, easy throw to the outside to Tez Walker.
Got me on the play fake. Maye buying time, throws underneath, coming back for the catch at the 30-yard line is Gavin Blackwell. First time we've called his name today. He was teammates with Sam Howell back at Sun Valley High School in Indian Trail, North Carolina.
So you're saying he's had a few good quarterbacks?
Yeah, you're working with 2 NFL guys. Sam Howell enjoying life in the NFL in Washington, could be a starter this year. And we know Drake Maye is going to be a high draft pick a year from now. And motion, looked like the receiver at the bottom of your screen jumped early. That's Gavin Blackwell.
Those are those unforced penalties that drive coaches nuts. And as a wide receiver, if you forget to count, just watch the ball.
Right.
Drives you nuts.
Second down and 11 now. First down is at the 26-yard line. Here comes a kind of a blitz almost, and the pass is grabbed. Great grab by Morales. Little extra pressure provided by the defense, and another great throw by Maye.
That was definitely a blitz. Jonathan Adorno, the right guard, did a nice job picking that blitz up. Good protection.
I didn't know we were allowed to blitz in a spring game. I thought it was all going to be base. Torpedoing in on first down is Hampton. Maye now 8 of 9 for 105 yards through the air.
You don't want to tip your hat for anything you're going to do in the fall.
You're not saying somebody in that crowd with binoculars could be from South Carolina?
Well, you know, I don't see any South Carolina colors, but you never know. You'd have to be undercover, right?
Yeah, I don't think they'd be dressed in garnet black. I think they might be a little more incognito. But yeah, every coach is. I think it's in your DNA. You got to be at least a little bit paranoid. But in actuality, that's probably not far-fetched to believe it's somebody.
Well, listen, I've gone undercover in my day, okay, in a past life. So yeah, you kind of mix in to look like everybody else. Then they're done that.
That's true. You would know it at an all-time level. On 3rd and 3, split twins for Maye. Another blitz. Maye flushed out. He's got plenty of daylight. Going to tuck and run. The 10, the 5, and tiptoes out of bounds there.
First down.
That is the thing that stood out to me, Rini, when I first saw Drake Maye on a game televised last year, was how fleet of foot he is for that size.
And you know, in extending plays too, but when he knows he needs to run it, take off and get the first time. I mean, it's a dangerous, dangerous weapon to have. And again, a lot more athletic, I think, than people give him credit for.
Some of those basketball skills paying off with the footwork. Handoff, second effort, third effort, and stacked up at about the 3-yard line is Hampton, former North Carolina Gatorade Player of the Year. He rushed for over 5,700 yards and 88 touchdowns back at Cleveland High School in Clayton, North Carolina.
And he's the back. I want to touch the ball down here. 6 foot, 220. He's a load. Run behind the pads. Good forward lean. And move defenders.
Second and goal. Snap. Handoff. Nothing doing. That'll be a loss of a couple. Great pursuit that time by that Tar Heel D. Looked like leading the way was 44 Randy Caldwell, as well as Gabe Stevens, number 34.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want to do defensively. When you have a big back, 220 like that, he wants to run downhill. You saw him have to stop and pitter-patter in the backfield. You're done. So it's a great defensive play. Big backs like Omari and Hampton, you got to get those shoulders square and get downhill.
On 3rd and goal, it's Maye from the pocket. Rifles one over the middle, incomplete. Walker was at the back of the end zone, but he might have overcooked that one.
4th down and goal.
Good pressure up the middle, though. I mean, Mack said he wanted to see that physicality from the line of scrimmage. And right now, defensive line, nice job.
Defensive line.
Good push that. And Tamari Fox right there, 56, the nose. Good speed from that nose position there, getting in the face of Drake Maye.
Well, they love their linebackers, and Cedric Gray and Power Eccles. I think Kaimon Rucker will be a force on the D-line as well. 4th and goal. Maye, pump fake. Heavy pursuit, and Maye will be sacked. Got him at the 15-yard line.
Okay, we've got White.
Fox and Stevens combining on the sack, and that'll put an end to the drive. Play number 35 in the books. Beautiful shots at the bell tower, just a few yards away from Kenan Stadium. Shot supplied by the masterful Chris Farrow. We've seen a lot of the quarterback Drake Maye today, and of course Drake Maye followed one Sam Howell. Sam Howell now in the NFL with the Washington Commanders, a 5th-round draft pick. We know Drake Maye is going to go a lot higher in the draft, but they both produced. Sam Howell was a second-team All-ACC performer, set all kinds of records before Drake Maye broke some of those records last year and hopes to break more of them this season. What's interesting, too, about both those stories is that Howell originally was slated to go to Florida State. We talked about Drake Maye was an Alabama
Second down and 4.
commit before he changed his mind and went to Chapel Hill. And in both cases, Mack Brown had to convince them, look, we are not going to do things the way they have been done around here. We are going to make it to the next level. And obviously, Rini, Mack's message was delivered in a big way.
Well, you know, talking to Drake earlier today, it was funny. He said, the Mack is back. And then the other thing he said was, really hard to say no to Nick Saban.
Right? Yeah, when Nick covets you, as he did, as just about every high school coach in the country did with Drake Maye, it is hard to say no. And Alabama's out there playing for national championships every year. But this is where Drake Maye wanted to be all along. So he is certainly happy that he found his dream school his whole life, and happy that Mack Brown is the head coach. And as we mentioned, happy to have Chip Lindsey as the offensive coordinator. There's a sack for Harold. And there is Kaimon Rucker. We were just talking about Kaimon Rucker. He's their best pass rusher, number 25. Last year, Rucker put up some numbers, but this year they believe the senior out of Hartwell, Georgia, is going to have his best year yet.
And it always helps when they don't block you. It's obviously an issue on that right side there. No one blocked Rutgers. He just comes down and would have had an easy sack.
Are you telling me it's easier to get a sack when nobody impedes your progress?
Especially when it's not a 315-pound right tackle. It's a lot easier.
These are the things you hope to clean up after this game. And Mack Brown was very outspoken about the fact that this is not just a glorified scrimmage. Like, jobs are going to be won and lost today. He stressed that to his players in the locker room before the game. Like, you are fighting to start. Give me a reason to start you, or give me a reason to bench you, were his words. And all these plays are being evaluated as much as any in the 15 practices this spring.
No doubt. I mean, this player evaluation today, you know, they're on tape, thud. We got some live play. They're going to go back. All the coaches, Mack Brown, they're going to evaluate all these players. And as you said, Mike, this is going to dictate the depth chart to start fall camp. So obviously, if you can start one, you want to be there, because it's much easier to start one, stay at one, than start three and then move up.
Harrell, quick slant to Hamilton. Under Mack Brown, offense has never been the problem, right? I mean, you look at that. Of course, we just talked about the great quarterbacks they've had. They've had some talented backs and receivers. So they put out offensively. Defensively, that's been the problem. And last year, really the last 2 years, a big problem. This year, they want to make incredible strides on that side of the football. And again, it starts with physicality.
But you bring up a good point, Mike. Offense never has had an issue, but sometimes you can, you know, it sounds funny, but sometimes you can score too quickly, right? And you put that defense in a bind. And when you don't run the ball effectively, that seems to happen to good offense. Yeah, numbers are great, scoring a lot of points, but if you're not running the ball, if you're not, you know, taking time of possession, it can put your defense in a bind.
No,
and they want to clean that up.
Yeah, it's a great point, because Phil Longo, who's now at Wisconsin, that's going to be an interesting experiment of sorts. His offenses were designed to score in 90 seconds or less. And the good news is when you do it, it's points. The bad news is your defense is right back onto the field. This year, they hope to play a little more ground and pound, have some longer possession drives, and perhaps that'll take some heat off that defense. Some of the key defensive players, we've already called out Kaimon Rucker's name a couple of times here in the last few plays. Cedric Gray, just a tackling machine, all ACC linebacker a year ago with 145 tackles. And Elijah Huzzy, a transfer from East Tennessee State, 12 career interceptions, a young man that they think is going to be a force right away in that Tar Heel secondary. Play number 42 is going to be a throw on the run and right on target by Maye to McCollum. Watch the ability here by Drake Maye.
And this is what has NFL scouts drooling. He's rolling to the right, and just a flick of the wrist, this ball goes 40 yards downfield, perfect corner route, and he puts it right in the hands of Nate McCollum, one of his new receivers. I mean, you just can't coach that.
No, that is something you're born with, and Drake Maye has got it. It was actually Drake Maye who was throwing the passes to Josh Downs during the pro day. And let's be honest, while a lot of people were looking at Josh Downs on that pro day, there were also scouts keeping their eyes on the prize for next year's draft in Drake Maye.
Yeah, what did Coach tell us? Out of the 32 NFL teams, they were all there at the pro day this year, and 45 different personnel. And honestly, as you said, a lot of them wanted to see Drake Maye, a little preview pro day, if you will.
No doubt about it. A 2nd down and 8 for Maye in the blue. Maye that'll be a tackle, a sack, if you will, for Tyler Thompson. Again, you don't bring them down in the spring game. Just a little two-hand touch when you're dealing with the quarterbacks. Tyler Thompson is a freshman out of Cary, North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm not so sure Tyler Thompson would have actually caught him in a real game, but give him the benefit of the doubt. A little tap.
Well, first you got to catch him, then you got to bring him down.
Exactly.
Drake Maye's not easy to lasso down.
And again, we talked about, the speed of Drake Maye on the outside there.
Yeah.
So.
Might be the final play of this first half. 3rd and 10. 4-man rush. Maye from the pocket steps into a throw, and that one hits the ground for one of the rare times McCollum was the intended receiver.
Good job by the defensive line once again, though. Really collapsed in that pocket on Drake Maye. Really nowhere for him to go with that ball.
So this will be the last play of the half. 4th down and 10. No clock, of course, in the spring game. Goal is to play 75 plays. This will be play number 47. Maye looks left, now fires over the middle. And it looked like, he caught it. What a grab by Nate McCollum. Oh, it looked like that ball was going to hit the ground for sure. And somehow McCollum scooped it up for the touchdown.
Well, the ball was definitely behind Nate McCollum. He adjusts to it and makes an unbelievable catch. Now, we have replay, but they obviously don't have replay in a spring game, so that would have been close when it went to review. But, it's all good.
Yeah, that's in a spring game, that's a touchdown. In a regular season game, that's an incompletion.
In a regular season game, we're waiting about 4 minutes for that.
Well, yeah. I've got the monitors up here, Rini, so I can sound semi-smart.
Well, yeah, and I got the big board out here too, so yeah.
Ryan Coe, it'll count as an extra point, and he missed it. No, he missed it wide. The Blue will have to settle for 6, 13-0, and we will take a timeout. Little halftime action here in Chapel Hill. Little audible left, Rini.
You got to be ready in the spring game, Mike.
Absolutely.
You know that.
Look, hot route.
Yeah,
Come on, Rini.
Exactly, hot route. I don't know what that is, but yeah.
Yes. We're back to Wedding Crashers here.
Right, hopefully everyone knew that. I do know what a hot route is.
Yeah,
the movie.
Please, if you haven't seen Wedding Crashers, certainly it's worth a rental. We're going to keep it here. No water on the field, so not officially halftime. So let's keep going, shall we? How about play number 48? How about Connor Harrell back in at quarterback? What have you seen out of Connor that you like, and what do you want to see him improve on so far?
Very athletic. I love that. I mean, he can throw the ball. I think he gets a little antsy, right? So patience for him in the pocket, working on that footwork. And I think when you have a really athletic quarterback, sometimes you fall back on those skills, and when stuff kind of breaks down, you want to run, right? You want to be an athlete, which is an attribute, but also you have to have that patience and let your reads develop. And again, he's going to learn. He's a young quarterback.
Brooks in at tailback on second down. Harrell
8-3.
weaving his way to the 45-yard line.
You know, they give credit to big Myles Murphy there. The 3 technique for the sack. He's one of the players that Coach Chiswick told us he needs to play better. He needs to step up next year. He has all the ability. So I'm sure they're going to like that effort right there on tape.
So as you mentioned, they actually give Murphy credit for the sack back to the 36. I was going to let that go. I was going to let Harrell. I wanted to see him run more. Maybe he'll run here on 3rd and 11. Nope, little draw play. And that one is stuffed.
And, you know, Mike,
right near the line.
We talk about just kind of the vanilla of this, right? It's player evaluation. You know, there's no game plan in here. There's nothing that's set up for Connor Harrell. It's 11 personnel, the entire offense, and it's just basic stuff. So, again, when Connor Harrell is in there for real, there's going to be things for him that make him a better quarterback.
And I'll tell you what else would make him better if he had Tez Walker and Nate McCollum to throw
to. That would help.
So he's playing with the 2s. Obviously, Drake Maye playing with the 1s. I've seen some coaches in spring games I've done in the past mix that up a little bit, 1s and 2s together, but Mack Brown going 1s on 1s and 2s on 2s here. Tackle made in the flat. Christian Hamilton on the reception. He's the true freshman out of Harrisburg.
And that was a nice looking play there. You know, the sprint out, good throw to his left. It's a nice looking play right there.
In plus territory now. Harrell in the offense on a 2nd down and 6. Clouds clearing up. Nothing but sunshine here in Chapel Hill as that one's caught at the 40. And that's one of those talented tight ends. That's the one we haven't talked about. Their top 3 are outstanding. That's Jake Young, a young pup, redshirt freshman out of Waxhaw, North Carolina.
And they're all great size. They're all about 6'4", 240, 250. They can all be end line traditional tight ends. They can flex out. They can cause matchup problems. Again, a great tight end room here at North Carolina.
This is Harrell's best looking drive thus far. He'll hand it off. A little pitter patter through the hole. And it's going to be Kellen Hood on the carry. Don Chapman on the tackle for the Tar Heel defense.
And Harrell's that type of quarterback too. Watching him, he can throw the ball at different levels. He's kind of that 3/4 arm sling throw that he had there to the tight end. He can release the ball different levels.
He was 24-1 as a starter in high school. Into the flat, and quickly wrapped up his hood by Chapman again.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Harrell, Thompson High School, Alabaster, Alabama. It's one of the best programs in the country, let alone the state of Alabama.
He threw for 81 touchdowns and just 6 picks over his final 2 years in high school. Just a redshirt freshman.
4 downs.
So really, it's 3rd and 10, but it's 4 down territory, so they'll get some of it here. That's one of the things Gene Chiswick talked to us about, Rainey, the fact that the last time around when he was coaching, you stopped him on 3rd down, you got your defense off the field. Now so many teams in the analytical age go for it on 4th down.
Yeah, he said that was the biggest adjustment to him. And he was doing TV with us. He goes, yeah, I watched it every week, but then when the weekend ended, I went home and I didn't worry about it because I didn't have to worry about stopping offenses. Different animal now today, and yeah, with analytics, boy, it's you're going to coach a lot differently defensively.
They're going to go for a home run ball on 4th down, just out of the reach of Chapman. Hollins was on the coverage, and that is how the first half will come to a close. 56 plays. We'll get at least 75 in before we're all through here in Chapel Hill. Blue leading it 13-0.
First half's over with. Give me your assessment.
I think it was good. It's what we wanted. It's hard sometimes to tell. It's hard to do goal line offense when you're thud. As Chip just said, when we don't tackle, man, we can't get yards. Everybody just blows the whistle. And I said, I got it. We're good. We're not trying to win the game today. We're just trying to handle it. Drake looks great. The two new receivers are really, really good. Thought the offense did a really good job. The defense has dominated when they've been out here, and they're not doing anything. They're just playing. So that's good. Now we'll get all the blue guys out, and we'll play with the whites and grays for us. There'll be some freshmen that need to be seen. We'll continue to thud. We discussed whether we want to tackle or thud, but you got 20 plays left, 25 plays left in a spring game. You want to make sure everybody's standing when we get through.
Yeah, great stuff. Can't wait to see it finish.
Yeah, thank you.
Mike, back to you, buddy.
You got it. Thank you. Good stuff. We'll be talking to that guy soon as well, Drake Maye, who did Drake Maye things, just made NFL-type throws in the limited time he was able to go out there. He was excited about this game. He said he wanted to play as many plays as Mack Brown and the coaching staff would let him play. If it was up to him, they probably wouldn't play thud on him either, because he knows how to break tackles, Reaney.
Well, I mean, I think it's safe to say he wouldn't even need to take a snap this spring, but he did. And for what he's done already today, we've seen more than enough. I mean, we knew what we were going to get out of Drake Maye, and it's actually been better than I envisioned in person down on the field here. So yeah, they're in good shape at the quarterback position.
I think they're in pretty good shape in the wide receiving position as well. I like what I see out of Walker and McCollum. You know, I don't know if there's a Josh Downs there, but I certainly like those two players and what they can do as we look at top quarterback prospects. And again, you might be looking at the #1 guy. If he's not #1, he's probably going to be #2 in next year's draft. Drake Maye and Caleb Williams, who, as we mentioned earlier, actually have a friendship that goes all the way back to their early years in high school. Michael Penix out of Washington certainly will be up there. Yes, that is Deion's son. That's going to be starring at Colorado now. It still takes a little bit of getting used to say Deion Sanders and Colorado Buffaloes in the same sentence. Jordan Travis, Reaney, you and I had Jordan Travis in the bowl game last year down in Orlando in the Cheez-It Bowl, and he's going to be one of the top performers in the ACC this year.
Listen, don't sleep on Jordan Travis. I just don't think he's getting the praise he deserves, and Florida State is going to be a tough team, really my favorite in the ACC this year, but yeah, Jordan Travis is electrifying as well.
You kind of buried the lead there. You're going out on a record here in mid-April. You're taking the Seminoles to win the ACC. I
am. Well, you know, we finished our season off. You just said we had them in the Cheez-It Bowl. They fought through, had a great win over Oklahoma. And, you know, I'm a big Mike Norvell fan. I called a lot of his games at Memphis, and it took him a little time to get some traction at Florida State, but I think this is his year this year. I really do.
Yeah, you're not alone on that one. I think a lot of people are high on the trajectory of Florida State as you look at Reaney's top 5 picks in the ACC. I think, Reaney, just about everybody's going to agree with those top 3 in one order or another. And then you've got NC State 4. And, hey, I'm with you on some Duke love. I love Riley Leonard, the quarterback. I love what they've done with that coaching staff, the new attitude there. I think Duke can once again be a problem.
Well, Mike Elko, right? You talk about a defensive-minded coach, physicality, right? A lot of what Mack wants to do with his team next year with Gene Chiswick. So you just love that with Duke. So, yeah, the triangle here, well represented in the ACC, I believe, for next season.
Of course, Brennan Armstrong now with Dave Doran's NC State squad, the transfer from Virginia going within the conference. Clemson hasn't had the same level of dominance, which might be good for the rest of the ACC, but they're still awfully good, as Reaney's standing by now with a guy who's more than awfully good, Drake Maye.
All right, Drake, assess your performance, and I'll give you my opinion.
Yes, sir. No, I definitely, you know, we moved the ball well. You know, we hit down in the red zone. I got to make a few better decisions. Missed one or two that I'm kind of mad about that I'll remember. But, no, overall good day. I thought we ran around well. I'm proud of the guys, and just fun being out here.
I thought you looked great. One of the things you wanted to work on coming into this spring was your footwork, right? Sliding in the pocket a little bit too much, you thought, and some of your arm mechanics. How have you done this spring with the things you wanted to tweak?
Oh, no doubt. You know, I think that's the big things I'm harping on. I think, you know, footwork always, you know, as any quarterback, any level, just work on getting better, you know, fine-tuning things. And I think that last sack on one of those 4th downs, I slid into pressure. So just stuff like that. Just try to avoid it to help the team and, you know, overall. But, you know, I feel like we had a good day. So.
New offensive coordinator, Chip Lindsey. I talked to you before the spring game started. You said a lot of terminology is the same. Talk to us about Chip and your relationship with him and how you feel that's going to be going forward next season.
Oh, no doubt. Coach Lindsey's been great. You know, he's coaching me hard. He's coaching all of us hard. He's doing a nice job of, you know, not bringing only his stuff that, you know, only he knows before. So we had a lot of stuff last year that we're rolling into this year. same terminology that's making it easy on the guys and easy on me. And it's been fun to kind of see what he brings in and see what we're keeping. So now I feel like we got a good thing going. So I'm excited.
Now, you lost some productivity, right? Josh Downs, Green gone from wide receiver. People were a little nervous about that. You brought back some good guys. But, boy, Nate McCollum, Tez Walker. Tez Walker might be a new favorite target for you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but he looks good, especially stretching the field.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, he runs with the best of them. Him and Nate, they've been great additions to the receiver room. We've also got Kobe, Gavo, some guys, Andre Green, some young ones. But Kobe and Gavo, they made some big plays last year. So those kind of 4 guys, and we were trying to find some more. They're all stepping up, showing some flashes, and also got a great tight end room. So I got a lot of pieces around me. I just got to do my job. So that's about it.
And a great running back room as well. Get those guys all healthy. Looks like a concerted effort, really, to get that offensive line downhill, get a little more running game, which I know you want, and it's going to help you as well. How do you think that has looked this spring?
Oh, yeah. Coach Lindsey, Coach Clems, they brought in their new schemes. It's been awesome. I feel like we're getting down here. We're hitting, a lot of big runs. So it's been fun to see those running backs. We got 5 or 6 ones that can run it. So just kind of figure out who kind of separates himself and just give them the best, kind of opportunity to make plays. And I think they've done that, and just excited for the season. These spring games, it makes you excited for the season. You got to wait a whole summer. So,
last question for you, and probably the most important. Got to talk about your offensive line. Added some pieces there, some guys that are back, a little more experience. Talk about them and how you feel they're going to be next season.
Oh, yeah. It starts with, opposite line. It starts with them. They do a great job. We got 4 of them back, so excited to see kind of who's going to fit that next role. But, 4 out of 5 back, that's pretty strong. We're obviously losing Austin Richards, who's one of the best. But, Corey Gaynor up front in the center, he's got them going, and, he lead them. And, me and offensive line, we try to, get everything right, and it starts with us, and then the rest is history. So.
You got to take care of that O-line. I was a running back in college. I lived with my offensive lineman. I knew where my bread was buttered, man, and I know you do as well. Drake, great stuff today. Can't wait to watch you next season, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Go Heels, baby.
Back to you, Mike.
Really great stuff, and that is authentic Drake Maye, by the way. That's not all shucks interview Drake Maye. He truly is a guy. He's his own worst critic, and when things go poorly, he looks at himself in the mirror and he says, it's on me. And you can tell he's a perfectionist. Rini, as you mentioned, the analysis that you had, that I had, that most people would have had was he looked really good. He's thinking about the 2 or 3 throws that he didn't make as well as he could have.
No doubt about it. I mean, and that's what you want, right? And he could have easily said, hey, I was 9 for 11. A lot of reception, a lot of completions, touchdown throws. But nope, I missed a couple. I could have been better in the pocket. I caused a sack. You just love that mentality out of him.
No, he talked about the targets that he'll be working with. And again, no Bryson Nesbitt, the top tight end who will be back. They love their tight end room, but they love these 2 guys. Here's what they've done today. 2 catches each, a touchdown each for Walker and McCollum. That's the productivity you want to see out of the 2 key transfers. So, again, modern day college football, you don't have to rely on a bunch of freshmen to replace 2 veteran productive wideouts. You just hit the portal and you get 2 productive veteran wideouts.
Yeah, I mean, it's the free agency of college football, right?
That's it.
Kind of the wild, wild west, but we're all living under those same rules. And I don't know where it goes from here, but yeah, it's crazy.
Well, Mack Brown, who's I mean, if you're running college football, and we know we have new leadership now, if you can't lean in and get the opinions and takes from one Mack Brown, then you're not doing your job. But he shared with us plenty of opinions. One thing he does like about the portal now, you're only allowed 1 transfer. If you try to do it again, you have to get a waiver signed. So that might prevent some of the rampant, quote-unquote, free agency and transferring that we've seen recently in football and basketball.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I think what the powers to be didn't realize was what NIL was going to do with movement of players, right? NIL was not intended to make players leave, right? To go for NIL deals. But we all know, even though you're not supposed to do that, that's happening, right? And so that's like the biggest issue that I think they have to try to rein in.
39-yard field goal attempt by Noah Burnett, who right now is number 2 on the kicking depth chart.
Delay game, leave it where it is.
We're going to forget that delay of game even happened. Just keep it right there on the 29. Mulligan on the penalty.
Block the kick.
Burnett last year was 15 out of 21 with a career long of 47 yards. Again, this from 39. Hold is true. Kick is on the way. Plenty of leg and right down Broadway. 3 more points on the board. 16-0. The Blue on top. 68 plays in the books from Chapel Hill. The bell tower here in Chapel Hill brings us to what will be the final drive of the 2023 Carolina spring football game. Talk so much about Drake Maye. He's going to have good company with ACC quarterbacks. Jordan Travis, we talked about. Kate Klubnik of Clemson. It's his job, no doubt, this year. Riley Leonard, I think, is an unheralded star in the making. Armstrong had a disappointing year last year, Rini, at Virginia. Everything went wrong in Charlottesville last year, but that's a young man that still has a lot of talent.
Well, and sometimes you just need a reset, right? So transfer portal may be really good to him. Get to a new scenery, new coaches, North Carolina State, and as you said, he's done it before, right? Not such a great year last year, but maybe a little change of scenery. It's going to turn him back on.
And 2 years ago, he was the talk of the town in the ACC with some of his pure physical ability. Jefferson Boaz is not in a quarterback. That's Tad Hudson. Tad Hudson. Well, Boaz isn't a quarterback. I do want to mention Tad Hudson, though, who was in on the last drive. Tad Hudson, their top recruit, a 6'2", 220-pound freshman out of Huntersville, North Carolina. And again, they love his arm talent, the ability. He's just like a true freshman. He's got a long ways to go in terms of grasping the offense and getting more of a feel. But they certainly have high hopes for their top recruit in this 2023 recruiting class. Jefferson Boaz in there now. He's the 6'7" junior. There you see the top recruits in this recruiting class. We haven't talked a whole lot about Harvey and Starlings and Culliver because, again, they've got veterans and transfers ahead of them right now. But one thing Mack Brown has always done well, going back to his days at Texas and now the second time here in Chapel Hill, they recruit well, and they will continue to recruit well, as that will put an end to this 2023 spring football game. It's not the end of the game. We got 72 plays in.
It's fourth. You know, they're simulating fourth quarter.
Okay.
You know, they put the 4 up and they go to their fans.
Okay.
And get the fans a little excited. So, you know, getting ready for next season.
All right. Okay. And then we come back for what? 3 more plays?
Well, that's over my pay grade.
Hey, it's a spring game. Anything goes.
But you know, Mike, just to jump on what you're saying about Tad Hudson, he's another one really going to benefit, right?
Yes.
In the 3-hole, being able to sit back and watch Drake Maye and what he can do in practice, in games. And I think he's going to be a huge beneficiary of Drake Maye's play as Tad Hudson gets older and progresses in his career, because he's got all the tools as well, like as you just said.
Yeah, today was not going to be the day for him to shine, because they really wanted to get Drake Maye some reps with his new receivers. Want to see what they have in Connor Harrell. You never know. I mean, forget about a change of pace quarterback. He could be the main guy if Drake Maye happened to go down with an injury, which of course can always happen throughout the college football season. But eventually you'll see more of Tad Hudson, and he'll get more reps and a chance to show what he can do in the future. Did you join in on the festivities?
Well, no, I was going to say, though, I think the fourth quarter's over with, so I think we're good here. About to get going again. Well, I mean, it is the fourth quarter for us as well. So.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Some of our crew has a plane to catch.
First down and 10.
All right, so 1st and 10, play 72. Again, we were told 75, but it's a spring game. There's no hard and fast rules. If they want to go 85, then go 85. We'll see. Boaz, the quarterback.
I think Mack will give them a possession here.
I would think so, yeah.
Plays.
Oh, big hole up the middle. And one of the bigger runs we've seen today. And still running, and finally tripped up at the 15-yard line. That is the younger Hood brother, Kellen Hood, the redshirt freshman.
And I tell you what, that was great explosion through the hole, right? Love that out of your backs. Hit the hole. Good job up front and hit it. And Kellen Hood did that right there.
Great run, Kellen Hood.
Easily the biggest run of the game. Kellen Hood showing off some of that speed.
want them stopped. Make sure it's a thud.
And Father Errol
Not a whip.
played football for Mack Brown. Earned his first stint here in Chapel Hill.
And 68, DJ Gaff, the right guard. Nice pull, kick-out block there on that run as well.
That was a 39-yard scamper. Penalty flag here falls as the throw is on target, but just out of the hands of Cloninger. Aiden Cloninger, the redshirt freshman receiver. And they'll back it up on the holding penalty. You know, since we have limited time here, Rini, I want to go back to the initial point. Again, we weren't going to get a verdict on how much this has improved today, but the soft label that this team had last year, certainly talented, put up a lot of points, but they need to be more physical. Mack Brown, the coaching staff, the players, very adamant about that. I have to think that they're headed in the right direction with their personnel and some of the coaches that they brought in.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the sophomore, that's blasphemy, right, for football, especially on the defensive side.
Right.
And there's no doubt we heard physicality in our meetings with the coaches all day long yesterday. And so there's no doubt concerted effort to be more physical on both sides of the football. But again, I talked about this earlier. It starts at the line of scrimmage. That's going to dictate it. And right now, I know it's kind of vanilla. I like what I've seen from this defensive unit in North Carolina.
Yeah, and that's a key point, too, is that you basically play a ton of vanilla in a spring game. Gene Chizik is not going to play a lot of vanilla in the regular season, and certainly Gene Chizik knows how to coach championship defenses. He's done it multiple times in multiple places. Now in year two, I think this defense, led by the guys that we talked about, led by Kaimon Rucker, led by Cedric Gray, Elijah Huzzy, and others, certainly due for a major improvement season in 2023.
The one thing I can guarantee you that Gene Chizik's going to do next year, and he didn't tell me this is just my opinion, he is going to be way more aggressive on first down.
Yep.
They're going to want to get offenses into second and long, and they didn't have a lot of TFLs, tackles for loss last year. So how do you do that? Get aggressive, get upfield, right? We talk about the havoc plays. TFL's a havoc play. He's going to be a lot more aggressive. His defense is going to be a lot more aggressive, no doubt about it.
We are nearing the close. Will likely be the final drive, your last chance to get some guys some work. There's Elijah Huzzy. So good at East Tennessee State, and it was highly coveted coming out of the transfer portal. The Tar Heels landed him. That'll be a sack for 14. Jaybron Harvey, that was their #2 recruit. ESPN top 300, number 186 overall. He's from South Durham High School in North Carolina, 6'2", 240-pound freshman.
You know, and Mike, and he's got that frame at 240. You could put a lot of muscle on him still, and he's going to be a nightmare of a pass rusher if he develops into the player they believe he's going to develop into.
On the left hash.
We're going to have, looks like, another drive going the other way. They're going to keep Tabor in at quarterback. Yes, they will. So Tabor will stay in at quarterback. And the blue will try and march down the field as we're nearing the 80-play mark here for the North Carolina spring football game. Tabor cocks and fires and completes it at the 45. It's Landon Stevens on the grab.
Second down and 3. Tabor to Stevens.
That's Maye talking to Pettaway. We didn't see George Pettaway today, but he's another weapon in that running back core. He might be the fastest of the bunch. A deep ball. Coverage is good. In fact, it might have been interference and a catch by Landon Stevens. The coverage was good until the contact came, and that'll be PI on the D, and that'll be a great throw and catch. Tabor.
And it was a great throw by Tabor.
Yeah. Are they going to call offensive pass?
Yeah, they called offensive PI.
So that'll negate a 44-yard game.
I didn't get a great look of it, but, you know, it is spring ball for the refs, too.
If you didn't get a good look down there, I can promise you I didn't get a great look up here. I thought it was going to be defensive pass interference.
Nonetheless, though, still a very good throw by Russell Tabor.
So back it up to the 25, which would make it a 2nd down and 25. Play action. Tabor rips one, complete. Modest gain underneath to Landon Stevens. And now another penalty flag. Getting a little bit sloppy here toward the end. We've got all the backups in.
And I'm standing back over here with Coach Brown, so we didn't see that one. As he's walking in to talk to the refs, see what's going on.
What's the message here? I know what.
Personal foul on the offense, so someone getting after
the play, 69. Personal foul.
It's Jarvis Hicks, the backup left tackle.
3rd and 15.
Tell you, Mack on the microphone today has been spot on.
Yeah, it's actually really helpful to the fans in the stands.
Yeah,
he's kind of giving a quasi play-by-play, a little mix between PA and play-by-play.
I know, right? Better than you would find in your typical Hollywood football movie. Varsity Blues as a sequel. I'm putting Mack Brown on the PA.
To the 40 on the other end.
Much better coach than Bud Kilmer.
Kenan Fieldhouse. Good job, defense.
Now the defense gets the stop. Gabe Stevens making the play for the Tar Heel D.
We have 4 plays left.
So we're going to go to 85 even.
If the offense keeps it moving, we'll let them score.
Or perhaps more.
Got to stop.
Tabor out of the gun. Deep ball. Up the hash and incomplete. Into double coverage. Landon Stevens was the intended target.
Well, the offense is going nuts because it did look from my vantage point like there was a defensive PI there. Safety came over, never played the ball, and hit the receiver. But maybe the back judge heard that there's only 4 plays left. Yeah. And said, I'm going to keep this flag in my pocket.
It certainly looked like PI from up here. It's Holiday and Bird on the coverage. All right, 3 more plays here. 2nd down and 10. A 4-wide formation for Tabor. 4-man rush for the Carolina D. Down the near sideline, incomplete. Twisting back and trying to make a great grab with Cyrus Rogers, sophomore from Raleigh.
82 was downfield. It's declined.
Yeah, so we got ineligible downfield. 82 was covered. Really, it's not 82's fault. The receiver on the end should have been off the line of scrimmage. He covered him up. That's what gives you that ineligible receiver. A lot of fans, they hear that call, they have no idea what it is, and that's why when the tight end's covered up like that, he cannot go downfield, and he gets the penalty, but he's not the one that did it.
Yeah,
the receiver outside of him did it.
He wants to turn around and address the crowd and say, that wasn't my fault. Don't get to do that, though. Tackle in the backfield.
Tackle for loss, 14, 12, penetrates. 4th down and 10.
This will likely be the final play of the
Last
game.
play if the defense stops them.
Tell him, Mac. These plays might seem inconsequential. I guarantee you, Gene Chizik, it's not inconsequential to him. He wants to stop here, and he'll get one. That's a sack. That's 14. Again, the highly touted freshman, Jaybron Harvey, making some plays late. The defensive sack will end it. An otherwise productive spring game here in Chapel Hill. Mack Brown addressing the players. A successful day. Nobody got hurt. That's number one. A lot of players got to shine and perhaps win a positional battle as well. And Drake Maye looked awfully good as expected. Rini, as we look at this schedule, as we mentioned at the top, it's awfully difficult at the beginning, awfully difficult late, and not exactly soft in the middle either. But it all starts September the 2nd, one of the best games on the board in week 1, Tar Heels and Gamecocks.
Man, that's a neutral site game in Charlotte. So, but you're right. I mean, this is arguably the toughest schedule in the ACC. You look at those first 4, and then you talk about the back end, and we talked about how improved Duke is. You get Duke at home, then you got to go to Clemson, to NC State. So it starts tough, ends tough. It's a tough schedule for this North Carolina team, but I think they're up for the task after what I saw today.
Certainly was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to be a part of. Rini, always a pleasure working with you, my friend. For Rini and Golia, our producer Andy Bach, our entire ACC Network crew, this is Mike Morgan saying so long. We will see you next on Saturday, September the 2nd in Charlotte. Tar Heels and the Gamecocks. So long from Chapel Hill, everybody.